Tampondol.
Welcome to Black Guy White Movie with your host, Maxwell Michael Towson.
So this is what happens. Black Jesus comes down and gives you guys a Black Panther trailer, and y'all don't know how to act. I get it. No, it's cool. It's already happening. I'm just pointing out that every one of the tidbits that I'm supposed to talk about pretty much has something to do with somebody that's in Black Panther. That's all I'm saying. It's a little crazy. It's just, it's a little crazy. But guys, welcome to Black Guy White Movie. I'm your host, Maxwell Michael Towson, and thank you for coming back to another week of the nonsense, which is truly, truly nonsense this week. Like, they're piling it on. I really feel like you're just adding Black Jesus gives you something. See, that's why you can't give these niggas nothing, because y'all just don't know how to act. But let's start outside of the Black Panther realm with one of my boos. And just to give you a little background story on this. So Rashida Jones has probably been one of my favorite comedic actresses for a while now. And I used to have a debate with one of my friends on which one of the Jones sisters was the greatest. Because anybody that was born back and that was in that Tupac era things always goes with Kadada. They love her. She used to supposedly date Tupac. I'm not sure if that's a real thing because that wasn't really my era, so I don't give a fuck. They really love her. They love her essence. They love everything about her. But for guys like myself, Rashida, and everything she did on Parks and Rec is just amazing. And she's a goddess. And finally, my homeboy, after all our debates, he saw Rashida Jones in person. I think he even got to talk to her and finally came over to my side and said, you know what? You're right. She is probably the greatest of Quincy Jones's kids that we know of anyway. And I just like to tell him once again, welcome to the good side. Welcome to the light, my friend. You finally understand what the world has known all along. But my girl Rashida, she's going to get an Actors Inspiration Award from SAG-AFTRA. The past winners of this include my guy Leo, Sofia Vergara, and also the queen herself, well, one of the queens herself, Kerry Washington, who does the perfect lip quiver on Scandal all the time. Like, she has a top 5 lip quiver I've ever seen in my life. I don't even know how she does this so perfectly, but anytime, you could literally fast forward through scenes of Scandal and just wait until you see Carrie do the lip quiver, and that's when you know you had to stop and watch that scene, because that's going to be a good scene right there. If it's not a lip quiver scene, you might be able to just get by that a little bit and then find out what happened in the lip quiver scene. That's the most important part. But my girl Rashida, she's going to be recognized as one of the artists that give back to the community by championing worthy philanthropic causes. I can't even say words today. And as you know, my girl's on Parks and Rec. She's doing her thing on Angie Tribeca. She's also executive producing the TNT show Claws right now, which had a decent premiere. I want to say decent. Shout out to Karuchi for doing her thing in television. So shout out to her. But according to the Hollywood Reporter, it looks like that her philanthropic efforts, there I go, I got through it that time, include work with the International Rescue Committee, serving on the board as a celebrity ambassador for Peace First, and also supporting the Oceana in its mission to protect and restore the world's oceans. She's also supports several other important charities, including Amnesty International and the Elton John AIDS Foundation, and also the Trevor Project. So shout out to her and all the things she's doing, and congratulations for this great honor, because I just wanted to start off with something that wasn't Black Panther, because now let's just get into the Black Panther part of the episode. Another quick note, Forrest Whitaker, who of course is in Black Panther, is joining the action thriller How It Ends. I'm really happy for my guy Forrest. My boy Gerard was talking about this, how Forrest Whitaker has just been putting on black cinema himself. Like, he's just doing his thing where he's like, you know what, you want a movie and you're pretty dope? Go ahead and take this movie. Just look out for me in your next movie, which Ryan Coogler is doing. He's like, hey, Forrest, anytime you ever need a job, just come hop in Black Panther if you want it. Just let me know. Help me help you help me. So it's been a wonderful thing for Forrest. But Forrest is going to be in this movie that follows a young father who will stop at nothing to get home to his pregnant wife on the other side of the country, after a mysterious apocalyptic event turns the roads into mayhem. Sounds pretty interesting. And then again, Forrest, you last saw him on, what is that joint? Rogue One, the Star Wars story. He was also in Arrival, which he was pretty dope in that as well. And then he, of course, just recently wrapped up Black Panther, which, of course, Black Panther comes out on February the 16th. That's kind of a weird date. I would have thought Marvel knew to drop everything black on Martin Luther King Day. Or maybe they're doing this on Martin Luther King weekend, or maybe that's Kevin Hart weekend and you're not allowed to drop things on Martin Luther King weekend anymore. I'm not quite sure. February 16th, Black Panther is coming out. And now let's get into the news or more Black Panther things. So the Black Panther trailer just came out. All I'm going to say is, can you just pause this, go watch the trailer first? Because if not, you won't get the full essence of why people are so hyped and have been getting their lives. Even people I've never seen in my life enjoy a superhero film. Anytime I say I'm going to go see the Avengers, even Wonder Woman, nah, I'm good. I'm not seeing this shit. But they dropped one trailer for Black Panther and suddenly everybody's in. Michael B. Jordan got people ready to go. Lupita out here doing her thing. Suddenly we all are comic book fans. It's the craziest shit I ever seen in my life. Marvel did some shit. They decided to drop the Black Panther trailer during the NBA Finals, which they know is pretty much a Negro holiday. It's almost like Hanukkah. I know Kwanzaa is supposed to be a little bit like Hanukkah, but honestly, as long as the NBA Finals goes about 6 games, that's probably about the length of time we need to come together as a community and make sure we're watching LeBron do his thing. So it's definitely a Negro holiday when it's the NBA Finals, and Marvel knew that. Well played, Marvel. I have to say, Kevin Feige, you know what you're doing over there. Whoever is in marketing, y'all understand Negro holidays, so touche, my niggas. Also, Black Twitter, of course, since it was on a Negro holiday, they dropped this trailer. They just accepted this tithe from Marvel into the evening collection and was so happy about it. I mean, it's no less than 27,000 think pieces about this goddamn trailer already out, from HuffPo to your cousin that has never written anything in his life suddenly has a blog just because of this goddamn trailer. It's the craziest shit I've ever seen. The trailer itself, we find out, like, as we go through the trailer, it starts off pretty much and you find out that white people know nothing about this fictional Wakandan country. It starts off with the guy Claw that you remember from Age of Avengers, who's one of the bad guys in the Black Panther. Like, in his legacy, he's one of the bad guys in the Black Panther comics. He starts off and you find out like he's one of the only people that have ever even seen Wakanda and seen all the riches and the technological advances in Wakanda. Actually in Marvel lore, I guess it's him, it's the Starks, because Tony Stark's dad definitely went there to get some, I forgot the name of the metal right now, so I'm tripping, but he definitely has been there before. And then we know Tony Stark has been there because he knew what Wakanda was in Age of Ultron. Same thing with Steve Rogers. He was there at the end of Age of Ultron. So I guess a couple people have actually been to Wakanda, but everybody else just thinks it's some third world country that mostly is supported from textiles. And that's not the case at all. You see dope ass shots of how advanced their cities are, how great their technology is. But they still kind of keep these traditional African roots with the clothing, which is definitely great from Ryan Coogler, which, come on, he's crushing that part of it. It's hip-hop infused, which has a dope-ass song on it, at least on the trailer so far, which he also added in Creed as well. He added hip-hop elements because he's of the culture, so he understands that you definitely got to add some hip-hop to some Black Panther shit. The shots of the Wakandan tribes were dope. They had this great shot of the Warrior Falls that was from the comics where they're like celebrating the life, or are they celebrating or mourning? Maybe they're mourning. Probably a celebration of life for the former Wakandan king that died in Age of Ultron. And then we also see the various shots of people that are coming for the throne, like Claw, that was the one that was telling about Wakanda. Also Killmonger, which is played by Michael B. Jordan. Well, it depends on how you treat Michael B. Jordan, because I still call him Wallace. Where's Wallace String? Other people might know him as Vince Howard. For the most part, he's Michael B. Jordan. And they also had the Man Ape, which is a very dope ass villain in the Black Panther comic books. Mostly, though, which I know is probably going to be the shot that I have as my Facebook profile, is Adora. I don't even know how to say this. Is it Mela Shea? Maybe it's Mela Shea or Mila Shea. So Dora Milaje is these epic women that protect the king of Wakanda. Lapita is one of them. And every shot of these women is just the greatest thing you've seen. I mean, they have, and they're also in action. One of them was in Age of Ultron as well, that was claiming she was going to fuck up the Black Widow. We're not quite sure because in the Marvel rankings, you can't really beat up a white woman. We'll get to that later. Just shots of them, super dope. Then it kind of ends on this heavily CGI scene, which was like, all right, guys, I guess you got to show that just to show that it's going to be a blockbuster. But overall, the trailer did what it was supposed to do. It definitely got the hype around the movie set up because, again, you have think pieces from everybody. You have reviews from everybody. It was dropped on a Black holiday. All these things, Marvel hit I think if they had a checklist of things they had to do, they hit everything on their checklist. I wasn't really that moved by it. I know I'm not supposed to say I'm not moved by this trailer, especially around mixed company. I get it. I'm not supposed to do things like this. I'm not supposed to slander. It's like I can't slander Queen Ava at any point in my life. I gotta always say how Moonlight was a great film. I get it, guys. Yeah, this wasn't it. I'm gonna wait for the full trailer. Once the full trailer drops, I'll be a little bit hyper about this. I know the movie's going to be dope because Ryan Coogler hasn't let us down yet. But at the same time, this trailer, this little teaser wasn't... It was, I mean... Tom Fondle. In more Black Panther news, Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan are teaming up for the film Wrong Answer. I'm definitely happy that Ryan Coogler has found his Denzel, and if you haven't listened to this show before, when I say his Denzel, if you think about Spike Lee's career, most of his dope movies have Denzel Washington in them. No question. Just think about it. Inside Man, Malcolm X. What was the joint? The only dope movie that didn't have Denzel was maybe Do the Right Thing. Do the Right Thing didn't have Denzel in it, but He Got Game is probably my favorite Spike Lee movie. Denzel's there. So when I say somebody has their Denzel, it's just the artist that they're going to work with that brings the best out of them. And that's who Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan are right now, because Ryan Coogler is not letting Michael B. Jordan leave at all. They came out with Black Panther and they were like, nah, Michael B. Jordan won't be in this one. And I want to say by the second month that they were talking about making this movie, Michael B. Jordan was in it. He was a villain by the second month. Like, you know what? We need Mike back. But Ryan Coogler found his Denzel, and then they're teaming up to do this new film. Let's go to BET Networks for the sound.
The dynamic film duo, director Ryan Coogler and actor Michael B. Jordan, are teaming up for their fourth film together, Wrong Answer. The film is based off the New Yorker article about a group of Atlanta public school teachers who participated in an elaborate 2003 standardized test cheating scandal. Hopefully the film can create some emotion surrounding the unjust crime, just as the article did in 2014. Wrong Answer is being produced by both Coogler and Brad Pitt's production company, Plan B.
The movie is going to be based on the true story of how an Atlanta high school educators participated in an intricate, systematic, standardized test cheating scandal back in 2013. It's based on an article that was published in 2014 about the scandal. Demaney, I'm going to go with Demaney Lewis, was the math teacher at Parks Middle School that did this. And pretty much they were under pressure because of the No Child Left Behind guidelines. So if you don't get certain scores on that and your school is classified as a school in need of improvement, you're fucked. You don't get the same money. You don't get the same support. So when shit like that happens, it kind of puts a lot of pressure on these teachers to do something. It seems like this guy took it to another level, though, because he was worried that the students, the basic thing of this is that he was worried that the students would struggle on questions that were delivered in paragraph form. The way they taught it to school, the students understood the actual material, but in paragraph form, he thought that it may trip them up in some way. And some of his students were still reading by sounding out the letters, so he thought they were at a disadvantage compared to other schools and how they would do these standardized testing scores. So he decided to pretty much cheat and brought in other teachers in who knew that they were also being judged by the same standardized testing scores. They all cheated. He even went as hard, though. Here's the thing. He decided to take it a step further. Like, even some of the kids that he assumed were the smartest children at the school, he looked at their test scores and saw how they had wrong answers as well and were going to be deemed as below that guideline for no child left behind. He decided to change the answers. Him and another teacher just went in there, just erased answers, just changed them completely. It's some of the craziest shit you've ever heard of. Just the level of cheating they were trying to do just to kind of make sure that they could hit these guidelines. It's kind of wild. To be honest, it goes into a lot of what's going on with our education system, period. Are we really worried about if the kids are being educated or if we're hitting certain metrics and marks to prove that we're doing work? Like, as teachers, to have that mindset of you have to cheat or remove answers or make sure that these students have certain things. And to me, it's just crazy that that is actually a place that we're in as educators in the United States, where we don't think that we have taught these kids enough just to kind of get over these standardized scores and results. And then at the same time, you have to think about it that it's been full-on studies shown that minorities just don't do as well on these standardized tests. I'm not quite sure what you can do to bridge that gap, like what you can learn to kind of make sure that these standardized test scores or SATs and all types of things that are used to say whether or not you can move to the next grade or the next level or to get to grad school or college. Like, these tests matter, but if they're not fair to a certain demographic, like, how are we going to be sure that these tests are the things that really can determine your intelligence or your work ethic or all these types of things? It's just, I'm just hoping that in this movie we kind of hit all these subjects that Ryan Coogler can give us, the overall point of view of everybody that was in this scandal, including the kids and their parents, to kind of understand how their parents felt about it. Did their parents think they needed that extra help? Did their parents think that this systematic institutional cheating and also these systematic tests that seem to be not advantageous to their children, like, how do they feel about these things? So I'm hoping this movie is definitely going to be dope, and that it is going to be dope because Ryan Coogler has been doing dope work and he has his Denzel. But I'm hoping they hit all these different facets of this story, and just so we can understand what's going on overall in education. So I'm excited for it, and we'll be right back.
Tom Fondle.
This is
Are You Dumb?
On Black Guy White Movie.
This week on Are You Dumb, it's just, sometimes it's best just to say nothing when you're getting heat. I know you've been in arguments before where you said your point, the person's still mad, and you gotta just you gotta let it go. You don't apologize because you're not wrong, but you just say nothing. Saying nothing sometimes gets you out of shit. It works. Everybody gets their situation out. I've worked in customer service a long time. You get cussed out quite a bit. When somebody just wants to get some shit out sometimes, you just let them cuss you out. You just let them talk. They go on and on. They're still not going to get a refund or whatever they're looking for, but you just let them talk. You let them get that out. Sometimes people just need to get that shit out. So David Edelstein, he's been a film critic forever. Like, he's one of the top film critics that we have out here. He works currently at New York Magazine. He ran into some shit. See, it's one thing when you run into some shit with black Twitter, right? You know what's coming. But white feminist Twitter is, I want to say they're probably ranked third, depending on, like, the backlash you're going to get on Twitter, they're probably ranked third. Like, black Twitter is probably number one. Then number two, I want to say, is just black women that protect Beyonce. So the Beehive is number two. You're not fucking with the Beehive. I don't know what it is about these women when it comes to Beyonce. You're not fucking with this bitch. If you say one wrong thing, if you say Beyonce's anything was wrong, Blue Ivy, anything was wrong. They don't really fuck with Jay-Z as much, but they will ride out for Solange as well, and also Mama Tina. So it's certain, I guess it's just the women that they fuck with the most. So they're number two. Number three is definitely white feminists on Twitter, because they're coming. They're going to write long ass articles about you. They're coming. So David Edelstein found out this week that they're not to be fucked with. He wrote a review of Wonder Woman. He thought it was just another day. He was going to write this review. He was going to talk about Wonder Woman. He actually enjoyed the film. If you read the full review, he enjoyed the film. Where he fucked up, at least in the mind of feminist white Twitter, is that he decided to describe Gal Gadot's body in multiple instances for no reason. I mean, at some points, he wasn't even necessarily just talking about the costume. He was just going in on her body, how it looked. And it's like, my man, like some of the quotes from the article. One quote is, "It's the perfect blend of super babe in the woods, innocence, and mouthiness." Already, my man, like, you can't. But you still good there. You might be good there. You're straight. Not a problem with that one. It's not until she strips down into her superheroine bodice and shorts, pulls out her sword, and leaps into the fray that she comes into her own. You treading. You're almost there, friend. Like, you can't. Like, you might have slid with the first one, but then the second one, they were gonna bring you in front of the floor and be like, "Hey, friend, you're fucking up here." Then he goes on to talk about he didn't miss Linda Carter's Box'em apple cheek pinup, though. It was worth waiting for Godot. Now you're rating her to the legend Linda Carter. She's like a feminist everything to them. Like, she was one of, my man. You fucked up at this point. So he gets in trouble. It's all these pieces about it. Everybody's writing about it. It's videos on YouTube. Jezebel did maybe a perfect parody article about it. It's called Wonder Woman Review. Gal Gadot did not give me a hard enough boner. Shit is perfection. Jezebel like crushed this shit, knocked it out of the park. Claire Schaefer of Newsweek did a good little article on this as well. So they're coming at you. They're shooting their shots. At this point, like I mentioned earlier, you just got to let that go. You take the L, you put your head down, you write about the next movie, you keep it going. You just write about The Mummy, whatever movie you're reviewing that week, you just keep it going, you move on with your life. This is where my man fucked up. So he decided to respond. And it's a long fucking response on Facebook. And he goes in. He's not understanding any of this shit. He's not understanding how you can just assume that he's sexist because of the way he's writing these things. He even goes on to try to explain point by point everything people were shitting on him about. The super babe in the woods comment, he was saying that it's obviously a play on Babe in the Woods, and she's literally super. So they're contrasting characteristics, and hence the sentence. Now they got to shoot their shot back. They're going to call this mansplaining. You're trying to tell them what the why, friend? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to yourself? You don't respond. You don't say shit. It's not about you no more. Like, just let that shit go. You don't respond to shit like this. Either, if you're going to respond, you either apologize or you let that shit go. Like, it's no reason to try to go point for point with anybody, because they're going to, why you don't do this shit? Because this is the world of receipts. It's always going to be some. They're already going to go back and go through every one of your fucking reviews from your whole life. And you got a lot of them. You've been doing reviews since it was okay to say whatever the fuck you wanted about any goddamn body. and write little dumb shit in your reviews. You could have said any fucking thing. Like, you could have been back in the 90s just talking all types of shit about black people, about women, about transgenders. Nobody would have known or cared as much back then, because who the fuck was reading reviews that weren't Siskel and Ebert? Not many people. But now they're going to pull your shit up. Every goddamn thing you've ever said is now going to be on Front Street. And this is because you decided to respond. Because initially, they're going to shoot their shot. They're going to talk their shit. They're going to say, hey, look at these men doing their little bullshit ass articles. They can't even say, hold on. Here's the other thing about you, my man. It's crazy that you talk about her body, but not Chris Pine's. Chris Pine was naked in this movie. Body on point. This guy never really mentions that shit. I mean, he didn't have the Zac Efron abs, because Zac Efron has abs I've never seen. Like, he possibly has a 10-pack. I don't know what the fuck that shit was. I don't know what creatine he's on. Because if that shit is just natural, just from working out, my life is fucked up. Chris Pine looking great in the movie. You don't mention that. You know they're going to pull up your old shit. They got in the article from Claire Schaefer, she uses examples from how people reviewed Black Widow in the Avengers movie, who was a great character in the movie, yet you're only going with how tight the leather was for her costume. It's shit like this is going to be pulled up. Even if it's not you, they're going to bring all your friends into it. And at the same time, we also have to have a discussion about the misogyny in these characters and their costumes, period. It's no fucking reason Uhura in Star Trek is wearing go-go boots. How the fuck is that functional on a goddamn spaceship? Why do I gotta see her knees? Somebody explain this shit to me. Why the fuck is Kara, I don't even know how to say her goddamn last name, in Suicide Squad half naked taking over the world? What the fuck did her midriff have to do with any fucking thing when she is a goddamn god? Like, it doesn't... What are we doing? Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad. Why is Harley Quinn in the Suicide Squad? You got to explain that shit to me. She has no powers. She goes around hitting things with bats. What the fuck is she doing here? And then also, why is she half naked during the goddamn movie? What is the point of this shit? The actress is a beautiful woman regardless. She could be wearing sweatpants and a full like Adidas track shit from back in the Run DMC days. She's going to be beautiful. Guys are still going to be pieces of shit and want to like jerk off to her and shit. That doesn't change anything. Like, I don't know why you think these costumes have to be fucking ridiculous and tight or crazy for people to think these women are going to be gorgeous. That's not a thing. Guys are fucking disgusting. They're going to like women regardless. They don't give a fuck what she's in. Or, especially with these comic book kids, they want to see what was drawn with the comic books. Why aren't we going with that? Even though most of the times, those are also some fucked up guys that are drawing this shit, so you might get a fucked up costume here and there as well. Either way, all I'm saying is, David, you're a god out here when it comes to movie reviews. You've been doing your thing forever, but you got to know, like, this is a different time. You can't be out here just saying whatever the fuck you want. You can't be out here thinking it's okay to just describe a woman's body or the costume, period, and just say, like, that has nothing to do with the goddamn review. If you want to say she looks gorgeous, we get that. She looks gorgeous. But I don't give a fuck about your analogies. I don't care about your point for point shit that you actually went through, which might have had some relevant shit in there. Whatever. Nobody gives a fuck. At this time, just take your goddamn L and move on. Whoever the fuck told you it was all right to go on there to do your little Facebook rant in this little post, no, that shit was stupid. Don't do that shit again. And moving forward, if you gotta ever think about anything when you're writing and it's some shit about a woman and you want to write about her body, I just have one fucking question for you.
Are you dumb?
This week, we're reviewing The Mummy. Well, the 2017 Mummy, but we'll get into that later. Directed by Alex Kurtzman, written by David Koepp, Christopher McQuarrie, and also Dylan Kussman. Cinematography by Ben Saracen. Production design by John Hutman and Dominic Watkins. Also edited by Gina Hirsch, Paul Hirsch, and Andrew Marchand. Set direction by Ailey Azis, Daniel Burt, and also Liz Griffiths. By the way, this is your spoiler alert. I doubt many of you will go see this, so it doesn't really matter. But if you are, go ahead and stop here and then come back later because we're definitely going to spoil this whole shitty ass movie. And now let's get to the review. Hey guys, welcome back. So now we're going to go ahead and review The Mummy, or the 2017 Mummy. So far, let's see how this movie is doing. So it didn't win the weekend. It looks like Wonder Woman is going to hold down the weekend, which isn't a great thing for Universal. Also on IMDb, it has a 6 out of 10 so far. So you guys aren't really feeling the movie either. 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's from the critics. And then 34% on Metacritic, which is a hard place to get anything great. But either way, this is looking like a pretty bad film critically, and going into the weekend, it looks like people aren't really fucking with it so far. So I went to check out this movie out at the theater in Towson. So if you're from the Maryland area, then you know Towson has I want to say relatively new theater that they have out there. They're finally going to put in reserved seating and the recliner seats in that theater. I really have to question, I don't know why you would even have a theater without recliner seats and reserved seating. Why would you build a new one without these things? But I'm not going to judge you too much. I guess you just didn't understand the market or how things work. That's basic now. Recliner seats, reserved seating. Also, you need to start adding waiters to every goddamn theater, because that's just a nice touch that I've seen multiple places now, including the iPick and also Alamo Drafthouse. So just adding these things to get people into the theater. It's no reason that you're finally setting that up. Either way, went out to Towson to check out the movie. It wasn't that packed, which makes sense because, of course, nobody went to see it. I also went to an early screening. My boy Gerard was telling me how you can go to these early-ass movies and get them for nearly nothing. I didn't know it was going to be that cheap. I assumed it would be around $8 or so to go see the movie. It was like $5, $6. It's crazy to go see a movie that early. Nobody's there really. And also it costs nothing. Movies are actually worth it at that point. Like, a bad movie is worth going to see when it only costs $6 goddamn dollars. Going to see The Mummy. So a little background about it. This is the first film in the Universal Dark Universe. So they wanted to set up these movies as a shared universe because, of course, everyone wants to be Marvel. But they want to set up a shared universe with all the Universal old school monsters like the Mummy, of course, Dracula, Frankenstein. Like, they want a shared universe where you would have everybody in it, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And this was what they called the dark universe. I guess the light universe is Fast and the Furious. So on that side, every movie is related to Fast and the Furious because everything is about that franchise for Universal. It would make sense. You don't want Frankenstein popping up in a Fast and the Furious movie. Although I'm convinced they're going to do Fast and the Furious in space at some point. So you might as well set that up. So Universal has decided to do this dark universe. It's kind of strange that they're doing this because I remember a few years ago, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen came out. I guess I'm showing my age because that wasn't a few years ago. That had to be 2003, 2004 maybe. It was League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Let me not be an asshole. Let me look that up really quick. So let me see when League of Extraordinary Gentlemen came out. Even though I really fuck with that movie, so I don't know why I'm trying to shit on it currently. But let's see here. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Let's see. So no, it's 2003 movie. So 2003, this film came out, and it was like the Avengers before the Avengers. They had Captain Nemo, Dr. Jekyll, and Mr. Hyde, the Invisible Man. So you've seen these characters come to life before and were one team trying to take down somebody. And I'm guessing they had the same mindset again, except they wanted everyone to be a villain and a bad guy just to kind of see how this team comes together. Either way, this was supposed to be the first movie to kind of set everything off. This was their Iron Man. This was their Man of Steel. This was supposed to be the movie to push everything into the shared universe. And it's not looking too good for them right now. So in the shared universe, so a little bit more about it. So in the shared universe, they were going to have definitely the Mummy, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Dracula at some point, and I think they were thinking about doing an Invisible Man, well, one of the Invisible Man movies as well, because it's a couple of Invisible Men that Universal, I think, has the rights to, so that was going to be interesting as well for them to do an Invisible Man. film. Yet, I don't think this is gonna, unless China saves them, because China saves a lot of franchises right now. And if China saves them, maybe they can kind of start making more of these Dark Universe movies. But right now, it's not really going to be the thing. So the movie itself, it has Tom Cruise in it. And seeing the trailers for the movie, you would think it was going to be a good movie, because anytime Tom Cruise is doing a full sprint in a trailer, it's going to be a good movie. At least I used to think that, because Tom Cruise on a full sprint means some real shit is about to happen. He's running from somebody. Usually that's going to be a dope-ass Tom Cruise movie. Edge of Tomorrow, dope. Most of the Mission Impossible films, dope. Valkyrie was straight. He was running in that as well. But you got to understand, if Tom Cruise is running, it's going to be a dope-ass movie. He had that other sci-fi joint as well, where he was running in it, where Morgan Freeman was randomly just in the movie for no reason. Tom Cruise running, it's supposed to work out. It's supposed to be a hit if Tom Cruise is running. Nonetheless, this one did not work out that way. So the basic premise of this movie is that, just like the original Mummy, which I have to say, well, not the original Mummy, Brendan Fraser had when they rebooted The Mummy, when they first had this idea of adding in the mummy aspect or the monsters, because Universal unearths this, I want to say every couple of years, that they decide they want to do Frankenstein or The Mummy or Invisible Man. Just some shit happens every few years where they want to get back to these monsters. Brendan Fraser, I want to say, had great mummy movies. Maybe great is a stretch. They were fun. They were adventurous. They harkened back to Indiana Jones days, so they were kind of goofy and campy as well. Rachel Weisz was crushing it in those movies. That was back when you thought Rachel Weisz was going to be everything. So this was around the time where it was just a good cohesion of everybody just coming together and making dope ass. Oh, The Rock. The Rock was in the second one. Like, come on. Like, I think that was the first film The Rock was in. I think he got paid $5 million to do nothing. And The Mummy Returns. Yeah, The Mummy Returns, I think, was the first film The Rock was actually in. And so you have to give those mummy movies that. Like, they gave us The Rock. And right now, The Rock is the highest paid actor in the world. So respect these mummy movies. They should have just been, and I'm only counting the first two, because the third mummy movie didn't happen. Anytime you take Rachel out of the movie, it just doesn't work. I don't know why they just tried to add in somebody else like that was going to work out. That's not the way the world works. It's that screen time and wonderfulness we had with Rachel, Brendan Fraser doing his thing. Either way, the third one didn't happen, so I don't even know why the fuck I'm talking about it. These mummy movies, though, with Brendan Fraser, were good movies. I still watch them anytime they're on TNT. It's a good movie to just chill, watch. Both of them are decent films. I don't know why Universal had to go back to this, but again, they're going to dust this off every few years just to kind of get the temperature of the room. Like Universal, they're that kid that gets in trouble with some shit and then they do their time out, they do their little shit, and then they go back and try to see if their mom or dad is still mad about it. So let me see if I can try to get away with this shit again. That's who Universal is right now. That's why we have 20 Fast and the Furious movies, because they keep getting away with shit here and there. And so they're thinking, you know what? If we can keep making a bill on these Fast and the Furious movies, we can write off whatever other bullshit you guys want to put out. So anytime we want to dust off these monster movies or whatever the fuck we want to do, we can keep doing it, because Fast and the Furious is going to make $1.3 billion. So it can wipe away every other fucked up thing that we've done. This mummy movie, they couldn't quite capture the balance of whether they wanted it to be fun and campy or dark or an action movie. It was just not quite there. Like the character that Tom Cruise played, which is kind of weird for him, he played a guy that should have probably been in his 20s. Tom Cruise is in his late 40s, 50s. This character was not a guy that should have been like Tom Cruise's age at any point of it. I mean, he's still getting bitched by sergeant, or maybe he was a sergeant, so he's still getting bitched by captain. It was just, or generals, like whatever the fuck it was. Like, it was just a weird way to go about things. Like, he was a treasure hunter that was still in the U.S. Army. He's in Iraq looking for treasure. It was just, for some reason, it was okay to just kill Iraqi bodies for no reason. It wasn't like it was part of the war effort or anything. It was like, no, these Iraqi bodies can just die just because Tom Cruise wants to look for some shit. It's a very weird way to go about things, friends, but it's fine. Throughout the movie, you kind of get a backstory to start the movie of the Knights Templar hiding this MacGuffin jewel that you don't know what it is at that time. So that's how the movie starts, that you get a backstory of the Knights Templar hiding this MacGuffin jewel. You don't know why. You don't know what's going on with it. Cool. So you're thinking we're going to just move forward from, that's going to be our only backstory. We start there, we move forward. Universal said no, or whoever the screenwriter of this said no. They fucked up the structure a little bit because they had this Knights Templar backstory. Then we went into present day where in London, they found all these tombs under the River Thames, and it was just random. They just found these tombs. They were unearthing all this stuff, and Russell Crowe shows up. Russell Crowe, I gotta appreciate, because he's getting to that Brando status now where he doesn't give a fuck about his weight. Everybody else that comes into these superhero films or these action films, they're in the gym, they're looking cut up. Russell Crowe is at that point now where he's like, who the fuck is going to say anything to me? Like, Russell Crowe has put on a quality 50, 60 pounds since I saw him in The Nice Guys. And that was, last year, 2 years ago? He's even bigger now. Like, this dude is solid. That's a stout motherfucker. He doesn't give a shit about y'all right now. He's just going to go out here. He has like the perfect voice, the perfect cadence. So everything that he drops as an actor just sounds amazing. He don't give a fuck. Pay him his money. Give him his coins. He'll be there. He'll do your little movie. He doesn't care anymore. Russell Crowe shows up into this little scene. He takes over the investigation or the unearthing of these tombs. And then he gives us even more of a backstory about the actual mummy, who was an Egyptian princess that was passed over after her dad had a son because, of course, Egypt. I don't know, like, what the fuck, whatever. She goes crazy. She decides to use dark magic and decide with the Egyptian god Set to bring him into the world through a human host or a human sacrifice. And through this dark magic, she almost brings in the god into the world, but she's stopped. She's mummified alive. They hide her 1,000 miles away from Egypt in Mesopotamia, which is now, of course, Iraq. And that's how Tom Cruise gets into the story. He randomly stumbles upon the tomb. He unearths it along with this archaeologist. I think she was an archaeologist. I wasn't quite sure because, of course, women in this section of the Mummy movies don't really fucking matter. Like, even the actual mummy was only there to service to find a man so that a god who we're assuming is a man can come to life in human form. So this powerful mummy woman who should pretty much be the shit just kind of chased around Tom Cruise the whole movie because he was the quote unquote chosen, just so she could fulfill her destiny of bringing a god into the world. Like, guys, if you're going to write this shit, just know how that looks. Like, you have a female mummy, which I'm sure is a bolster for you where you're thinking, oh, we have a female mummy, so you can't really fuck with us about that. Yet the only thing she's doing is talking about men, looking for a man, chasing a man. I'm not even sure this whole movie even passed the Bechdel test because even when the two characters talk to one another, it was only really about Tom Cruise and hoping that either one of them could either stop the curse from happening or keep the curse going. It's not, like, I just don't know what goes on through you guys' heads sometime, but okay, cool. We'll let that go. But throughout the whole thing, like, Tom Cruise, once he unearths it, he's the chosen now. So he starts having like these fever dreams and these visions of her coming after him. It's the same mummy bullshit where she has to kill people to kind of regain her full strength again. For some reason, I don't know why they didn't just keep the whole thing in Egypt, but for some reason it has to go to London. Who knows? It's just in London for no reason. Throughout all of this, like, finally you get a little bit of backstory of why Russell Crowe is in this. So they decided to start the shared universe immediately. So wasting no time, you finally see where the mummy is captured. They bring Tom Cruise and the female archaeologist in just to see what's going on. Also, just a little sidebar, my man Nick from New Girl is in the movie. He really doesn't have a purpose. He's just kind of Tom Cruise's sidekick. And I guess he's supposed to be comic relief, even though some of the best lines go to Tom Cruise because he's a complete asshole in this movie with no redeeming qualities or characteristics. But yet he ends up with like the ultimate power, and we'll get there. Don't worry about it. Tom Cruise, the mummy is captured. They meet Russell Crowe. They go back. You find out that the woman is actually working for Russell Crowe, which was supposed to be this big switch or reversal. But you really didn't give a fuck at that point because who cares? And you find out Russell Crowe is actually Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So he has a meltdown at one point where he couldn't get his medicine in time and he turns into Mr. Hyde. The timetable of him turning into Mr. Hyde and the medicine is fucking stupid. Pretty much it happens, I want to say, within a 10-minute time span in the movie. And it's supposed to be real time. So you can kind of see in real time of him having to take these injections to make sure he doesn't turn into Mr. Hyde. If that was the case, he could never go to sleep. He could never really leave that office where he was. Like the way they kind of set him up to be that reliant on having this antidote to make sure that he doesn't turn into Mr. Hyde is probably just a failure on their part. They were just trying to get to that point so they could show you he was Mr. Hyde, but that shit didn't really matter. The same thing of Tom Cruise going in, you kind of got to see skulls and bodies of other monsters that are in the Universal catalog. So you definitely saw the vampire skull with the fangs out, which I'm guessing is Dracula, but I'm not really sure. It could have just been another vampire, but whatever. So they're kind of trying to build this world with the mummy, with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, with Dracula. So you can see this world being built, and they're servicing that a lot. But at the same time, they're not really servicing this movie because none of this shit matters. When I'm telling you that they fight the mummy gets out, she finally fulfills her duty. Well, actually, Tom Cruise decides to fulfill the duty because you're supposed to believe him and the female archaeologist are in love just because they hung out one night. It was a dope scene on the flight. So I don't know what's going on with Tom Cruise and planes lately, but he's having some dope scenes in flight. Like he had a dope ass scene in MI5 where he actually took off like on the side of a plane. And then in this one, you can kind of see him like save her by making sure that she had the parachute as the plane is crashing. Great looking scene, dope ass scene. But even with that, like he saved her life. He came back to life. Even with all these things, you really didn't understand why their relationship was their relationship, or why he loved her, or why he ended up sacrificing himself to become a god. But, I mean, that's not a bad thing, but to become a god, to bring her back to life. All these things never kind of came full circle. You never really understand it. Their motivations toward one another. You understand that his motivation because he was selfish throughout the movie. And I guess you were trying to say that him bringing her back was how he redeemed himself. But you became a god in that. Like you have unlimited power now. So it's not really a redemptive thing. You brought back her. You brought back your best friend. I guess in some sense it was, hey, like he's not allowed to be with her anymore since he's this god. He has to go off and he can't be around her. But then the very next scene, you see him and his friend like back on their same bullshit because he uses this line from, it's a callback from the beginning of the movie where he tells his friend like, hey, where's your sense of adventure, before they go in to try to steal more artifacts. And at the end, it's the same thing, like, oh, where's your sense of adventure? So technically, you're telling me that he didn't change at all throughout the movie. We just watched this movie for no fucking reason. It's literally Captain America, the First Avenger, where none of this shit matters because you're going to wipe away this whole world and we're just trying to get to the Avengers movie. That's what y'all pretty much did to us. Like, y'all just wiped away this whole movie And the only purpose of this is so we know that Tom Cruise has these powers. And so when the Universal Avengers come together, the Monster Avengers come together, we know Tom Cruise has his power. We know Russell Crowe is going to be there being Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. We know Dracula will come in at some point. I'm sure they'll go get somebody like Jared Leto, just somebody to come in to be Dracula, just so you can have some name recognition as well. It just wasn't, it was poorly scripted. Directing wasn't, I want to say, bad. Like, it was definitely some great comedic timing in the movie. They definitely had great scenes action-wise, but it just, I think the problem with this was world building. They were trying too much of trying to capture a world and build out, and it doesn't work if your original movie isn't great. Like, you got to have the structure of the first movie sound, and then you can kind of say, okay, well, where can we drop in little Easter eggs so we can push forward with this universe? You can't go into these things thinking we're going to have this big universe. We need to make sure we introduce this character and have this Easter egg and make sure of this, because at that point, you're not really servicing the original story. And then we end up with a movie that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Like, if we get, it's the same thing with most of these shared worlds. Like, Man of Steel had the same problem. Like, it just happens from time to time where you have these shared universes and you don't quite know what you're going to do moving forward, but you just want to make sure that everything is set up for that shared universe. It's not going to work out. So Universal, the Dark Universe might not be the best thing for you. I know you're going to keep trying because you got to keep shooting this shot. And whatever executive or executives that came up with this, they're going to keep pushing it until they finally get one hit. I mean, honestly, Warner's just did that shit. They were like, look, we're going to figure out some way to make a hit. And they got Wonder Woman. So persistence works from time to time. Either way, this movie is probably best on a Netflix and chill night. It's not worth going out to see. It's not worth going to the Red Box. It's not worth, buying it on iTunes or any shit like that. Like, it's best once it's on Netflix, just throw it in, Netflix and chill, enjoy your life. You probably won't even get through most of it. That's why it's good for Netflix and chill, because honestly, it's Netflix and chill. So you only want about 20 minutes of the movie and you just go from there. But yeah, my man, Tom Cruise, I don't know what's going on with you lately. You keep doing all these different, you're like 27 characters now. You're Jack Reacher, you're Ethan Hunt. You trying to start this franchise. Like, my man, you got to start doing these one-offs again. I think they're doing another, what is that movie? Edge of Tomorrow. They're trying to come back with fucking Top Gun. Like, Tom, you got to start doing some original shit again. You can't just keep milking this well of sequels. Or you my guy. We come on. You can't just keep going back to the same shit. You got to come back. You got to come back hard with a dope movie that we're going to fuck with. So, my man, Tom, work on this shit. Pray to whoever you got to pray to. Do whatever you got to do. Get a new team around you. But this shit ain't working the same. Either way, I think we're going to be done for the week. Yeah, this movie isn't much to talk about. So we're going to be done for the week. So thank you guys again for coming out. You can definitely follow us on Instagram at Maxwell Towson, on YouTube at Tom Fondle. You can go to the website at www.blackguywhitemovie.com. We're going to set up a newsletter pretty soon. So if you want to be on the newsletter where we do some I think we'll just talk about more stuff that we did during the week. And I also do these Instagram trailer reviews online, so you can see those as well. So if you want to be on the newsletter, you can go to the website for that as well at blackguywhitemovie.com. What else we got? Oh, I'm going to be on the Spectrum podcast this week. I'm not quite sure when that drops. I know I got to record it either Monday or Tuesday. So I'm going to be on the Spectrum podcast. So go ahead and subscribe to that now on iTunes, or what else are they on? I'm just going to say on iTunes. So go ahead and subscribe to the Spectrum podcast. I don't know why I just blanked out right there, but I did. Subscribe to that. Per usual, RIP Alex, and we'll see you guys next week.
Tom Fondle.